Now in the studio, Nina Schick, who's a policy analyst at Open Europe, which is an independent think tank. You heard what Katy had to say there about sanctions and about the difference between sanctions on individual and on corporations or the Russian state. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, from the EU perspective, the only sanctions that are open actually for discussion right now are those targeted sanctions that Katy mentioned. That's Russian individuals or Ukrainian individuals who have been deemed to harm the territorial sovereignty of the Ukraine. Now, it's becoming clearer that Europe is actually united on that. In the past week, Europe was very divided on that, with countries like Germany, who have strong economic interests in Russia, being hesitant to adopt these sanctions because they wanted to keep the avenues for diplomatic rapport open. Now, today, Merkel, the German Chancellor, came out saying that it seems that these sanctions will have to be adopted. But again, these are individualized sanctions and not sanctions on Russia, the country as a whole, which would be economically much more damaging, but of course would also have repercussions for the EU and to a lesser extent to the US because of the economic ties between the EU, the US and Russia.
This is the problem, is it not, that the EU is reluctant to go too far because although they may damage Russia by doing so and putting broader economic sanctions on the table, they would also damage the EU.
Yes, absolutely, and the EU is divided on this. Countries like Poland and certainly Lithuania have been very vocal, for understandable historical reasons, to call to take a harder line on Putin and Moscow. However, countries like Germany, which rely on Russia for 40% of its gas exports, have understandably been less, want to do that less. So the important thing is that now it seems that there's a consensus emerging in Europe, but again, only on this level 1 of sanctions, not broader economic sanctions.
And of course the parallel problem is the state of the economy of Ukraine.
Absolutely, and this was one of the fundamental problems in this crisis. When Ukraine was about to sign this association agreement with closer relations to the EU, Russia showed them the carrot and offered them a $15 billion aid package. Now, at the time, the EU wasn't prepared to match that, but since the crisis has broken out, the EU has said it will match it. So, of course, the Ukrainian economy is a central factor in this crisis.
Thank you very much indeed.